Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my channel? Thank you so much. Some moments split your life into two parts before and after that afternoon. So, ordinary at first turned out to be one of those moments for me. Everything was going as it should. I was home alone and Danny was away on another business trip. The only silver lining to his absence was the chance to carve out a little space for myself, because for so long I had ignored my own needs and desires. The past few years of Danny's disinterest had brought me to a point where every moment of solitude felt like a reward, and today was one of those rare rewards. In my room, surrounded by my favorite linens, I had set up my laptop and placed a few of my little secrets nearby. I used to have these moments often back when Henry wasn't home, but now that he was back from university, finding opportunities like this had become nearly impossible. Henry, Danny's son from his first marriage. Even just thinking about his name stirred something in me that I couldn't deny the first time I met him. His tall frame, sharp features, and piercing gaze had surprised me, but it was just a thought. Yes, just a thought. I knew Henry was out with his friends and wouldn't be back until the evening. That's why I felt free to retreat to my room and indulge in a little me time. I thought I had closed the door, but I hadn't realized it hadn't fully latched, and then everything spiraled out of control. Just as I was starting to relax, Henry walked in. The few seconds when our eyes met felt like an eternity. I tried to hide the toys in my hands, but it was no use. The sounds from my laptop reached his ears, and his eyes widened even more. My body froze. I couldn't cover myself, couldn't turn off the sound, couldn't escape this humiliating situation. My heart was pounding so hard, it felt like it might burst from my chest. The expression on Henry's face was something I would never forget. Shock, curiosity, and something else, a kind of pull, maybe even desire in that moment. The emotions swelling inside me weren't just shame. That look made me realize the emptiness I'd been carrying. Uh, I guess I should have knocked. Henry said, his voice slightly shaky but deep. He slowly backed away, his eyes never leaving me as the door clicked shut. I couldn't comprehend what had just been left behind between us, but something had started. Something so wrong, so dangerous, yet so irresistible. The moment the door closed, I collapsed onto the bed, burying my face in my hands. What had I done? I was a 42-year-old woman and Dan's son. My stepson had just seen me like that. My mind replayed the look in his eyes over and over, and with every replay, I felt a strange warmth spreading through me. But at the same time, I was drowning in the deep well of shame that look. It wasn't just shock. There was something else in it, like he understood me or wanted more. Even thinking about it felt wrong. Disgusting, didn't it? But I couldn't stop myself. My heart was pounding, and the strange feeling was rising inside me. Wasn't it just a shame? I had noticed Henry's attention before, the way his eyes lingered on me, the quiet way he expressed his interest, but I had always tried to brush it off, pretending it wasn't there until today. This encounter had changed everything. 3 days. I thought Danny was away on his trip, and for 3 days it would just be me and Henry in this house. I had no idea how I was going to face him yet, deep down alongside the fear of what this could mean. There was an undeniable thrill, forbidden, dangerous, and impossible to ignore. I thought it would end here. I thought it would just remain an accident, but I had no idea what was coming next. I was completely unaware of what awaited me the following day, to hear confessions like this for the first time, and to support us. Join my channel, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Trust me, this story will be one of the most thrilling you've ever heard. I didn't see Henry all day. That night, I had a hard time falling asleep the next day. Most of the day passed in silence. Henry barely left his room, and after quickly preparing something to eat in the kitchen, I retreated to the living room. It was as if we were both determined not to look at or speak to each other, but that silence felt like an energy lingering in the air. We both noticed it, but chose to ignore it by evening. I decided to take a shower as the warm water ran over my skin. I tried to push the events of the previous day out of my mind, but Henry's expression, shocked, yet so intense, kept replaying in my head. Lost in thought. I was startled when the electricity suddenly went out. The water was still running, but the room was now cloaked in total darkness for a moment. I panicked. I turned off the shower and quickly wrapped myself in a robe just as I was tying it securely around me. I heard Henry's voice calling from the hallway. Emma, are you okay? He asked. I'm fine. I think the power's out, I replied, my voice trembling slightly. I tightened the belt of my robe and walked toward the sound of his voice. When I entered the kitchen, I couldn't see him, but I could hear his footsteps. We need to find a candle, he said, his tone slightly tense. The faint glow from a streetlight outside dimly lit one corner of the kitchen, but the rest of the room was shrouded in shadows as we both fumbled around. I suddenly bumped into him. My shoulder hit his chest, and we both froze, holding our breath. His hands instinctively went to my waist, steadying me to keep me from falling, but that touch, it wasn't just a reflex. Sorry I didn't see you, Henry said, his voice low, almost a whisper. Our eyes met, faintly illuminated by the dim light filtering in from outside. In that moment, the pull between us was stronger than anything I'd ever felt. It's okay, I murmured, unable to suppress the tremor in my voice. My heart was pounding so hard, I was sure he could hear it. Henry's eyes flickered to my lips. His breath brushed against my face in the distance between us. Emma, he said softly, his voice heavy with emotion. I didn't want to pull away in that moment. Every boundary I clung to blurred into nothing. Just then, the lights came back on. We both stepped back abruptly like we'd been caught. Henry moved toward the breaker box, pretending to check it. But I knew the weight of what had just happened lingered between us when I returned to the living room. Henry followed. His gaze was still locked on me, but this time there was a determination in his eyes. Emma, we need to talk, he said. The tone of his voice told me this wasn't just going to be a simple conversation. My heart began pounding in my chest once again as I sat across from Henry in the living room. The tension in the air was so thick it was almost suffocating. We both knew this conversation had been inevitable for a while now. There was an unspoken understanding between us. Nothing would ever be the same again. Henry lowered his gaze. Speaking softly, Emma, I'm sorry about yesterday if I made you uncomfortable. It wasn't intentional. When I saw the door open, I shouldn't have looked. His voice faltered as he searched for the right words, but I couldn't stop myself hearing this. My heart started to race and a warm flush spread across my face, but I tried to suppress it and nodded. Yesterday, I was just so embarrassed. I said, but I don't blame you, really. It's just everything in this house has felt so strange lately. Henry lifted his head, his eyes locking with mine. You're not. What's strange, Emma? What's strange is Danny not being here. Him being so distant with you. His words hit me hard. I had been trying not to think about how little attention Danny gave me, but hearing Henry say it out loud caused something inside me to crack. It doesn't matter, I said quietly, though my voice lacked conviction. Henry sighed, shifting closer in his chair. No, it does. It's impossible not to notice, Emma. You feel lonely, and that's not your fault. Tears welled up in my eyes. Having my loneliness put into words so plainly left me without the strength to deny it. Loneliness, I thought I had gotten used to it. I murmured, but the warmth in Henry's gaze pushed me to say more. But sometimes it feels so overwhelming. I don't know what to do. When Henry placed his hand over mine, my breath caught. You shouldn't have to feel lonely, Emma, he said, his voice deep and resolute. Someone like, you shouldn't feel this way. For a moment, I lost myself in the weight of his touch. Then my eyes drifted to his face, and I saw the sincerity in his expression. That's when I realized the bond between us wasn't just a misunderstanding. Henry was serious. I tried to change the subject to redirect the conversation. I want to talk about Carrie, I said, my voice steadier. Now, I was worried about you. You said you broke up, but why? Henry hesitated briefly, then took a deep breath, meeting my eyes because I haven't felt anything for her in a long time. He said that relationship was over. I just couldn't admit it. I analyzed his words carefully. Then why now? Why did you decide to end it? Now, I asked for a moment. Henry averted his eyes, then looked back at me. We were so close I could feel his breath. Because I like you, Emma. He said, his voice low but clear. Carly didn't matter anymore because you've been on my mind. It's been like this for a while, and that's why I ended it. I opened my mouth to respond, but no words came out. In that moment, Henry gently placed his hands on my waist and pulled me closer. Our lips were just inches apart, and I realized this wasn't just a fleeting attraction. This was a step we couldn't take back when Henry's lips finally met mine. It felt as though time had stopped his warmth. His certainty and the pull I felt toward him consumed me completely. My heart was pounding so hard, and my mind was blank. There was nothing but this moment here and now with him. At some point, the intensity of my feelings pushed me to act. I slowly broke the kiss, pulling back slightly as I tried to catch my breath. Looking into his eyes, I whispered, "I've been drawn to you for a while now, Henry." As the confession left my lips, I felt every barrier between us crumble completely. A moment of silence passed between us. That silence was the critical pause, the instant where we both questioned just how far we were willing to go. I locked my eyes on his, took a deep breath, and stood up. He looked surprised, but there was a spark of desire flickering in his eyes. "I can't bear this loneliness any longer," I said, my voice steady but firm. I had been holding myself back for so long that stopping now felt meaningless. Henry's eyes were fixed on me, his gaze intense and breathtaking. Slowly, I untied the belt of my robe, feeling the fabric slide off my shoulders and fall to the floor. His eyes followed every movement, locking onto me as the robe pulled at my feet without a word. I walked over to the large couch in the living room. Gently, I let myself sink into the soft cushions reclining. As my body stretched across the couch, Henry didn't hesitate for a second. One by one, he removed his clothes, placing them aside. Every motion felt deliberate, as if he were defying time itself, moving inevitably toward what couldn't be stopped. One of his knees rested on the couch beside me, his hands gripping the cushions on either side of my body for support. As he leaned over me, I could feel his breath on my skin, that warmth coursing through me like an electric current. When our eyes met, his lips slowly found mine. That kiss wasn't just a kiss, it was an explosion of every suppressed emotion, every forbidden thought, every yearning born out of loneliness. Henry's hand slid gently to my waist, his touch both tender and decisive. I fixed my eyes on Henry. At that moment, I felt something inside me. It was something forgotten. The more Henry continued, the more I found myself liking him long. My body trembled, and I closed my eyes, letting out a loud sound. When I opened my eyes, I saw Henry's broad shoulders and placed my hands on his back. His face was flushed, and we were both breathless. I was utterly lost in the moment. Henry, too, looked so happy and filled with love. Just as my body started trembling again, I dug my nails into Henry's back. He must have really liked it because he let himself go as well. I felt a warmth inside me, and it was absolutely wonderful. Every moment I spent with Henry both thrilled and unsettled me. Danny still had a few days before he'd return home, and during that time, Henry and I shared passionate moments that crossed every boundary. Everything felt so natural and inevitable that the wrongness of our actions was pushed to the darkest corners of my mind. Henry's presence filled the void left by Di's indifference, making me feel alive again. When Danny finally came back, his indifference remained unchanged. The loneliness I had felt during his absence and the warmth I experienced with Henry only deepened the gulf between us. Henry and I continued texting each other, even with Danny around. Talking to him filled a void in my life that I couldn't ignore. One ordinary evening, Danny mentioned he had a work meeting and wouldn't be home all night. I couldn't hide the excitement that bubbled up inside me. Picking up my phone, I started typing a message to Henry. "Danny isn't home tonight, it's just us. I can't wait to see you." I paused for a few seconds before hitting send, my heart pounding in my chest. Finally, I sent the message and set my phone down on the table. A faint smile creeping onto my face as I thought about the night ahead. Little did I know what was happening elsewhere. At that very moment, Henry was confronting his ex-girlfriend, Carly. Her persistent obsession with him had become unbearable, and he decided it was time to make things clear. Carly's eyes burned with determination and vengeance as she interrupted his every sentence. "Carly, that's enough," he said, his voice firm but tired. "Stay out of my life. I don't want you anymore." Just then, Henry's phone buzzed on the table. Carly's gaze shifted and she caught sight of the screen. Her eyes narrowed and the fake smile she'd been wearing disappeared. I knew it, she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. I saw you two kissing. Henry stepped forward to grab his phone, but Carly moved back, clutching it tightly. I'll tell Danny everything. She spat, her eyes blazing with hatred. I've been watching you every day. Henry's heart sank, and he knew things were about to spiral out of control that evening. Henry told me about Carly. I talked to her yesterday. He began, his tone resolute. Nothing happened. I just told her to stay out of my life. She's been bothering me for a while, but it's over now. His words gave me some relief, but a lingering unease still gnawed at me. The next day, Di's behavior took an unexpected turn from breakfast onward. He was unusually attentive, normally cold and distant. He suddenly seemed to be everywhere. I was watching me closely at every opportunity. Are you okay, Emma? Has something been going on lately? Danny.